Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Joel. In today's video, I want to show you a very simple project we're going to make together, a crayon box that will give you a lot of the tools and skills needed to get you started on your journey to becoming an Adobe Illustrator master for both vector graphic art or design for laser cutting. Either way, it's fantastic. I'm going to make it simple and hopefully you'll enjoy this. Now we're going to cover a lot of tools in here, including rectangle tool, ellipse tool, text tool, the fill tool, working with guides, grids, and alignments, and a variety of other things. Let's get started, shall we? Step one, we're going to go ahead and click this new file button, which is going to give us a lot of options for setting up our new document. I generally like to work with the print options because sometimes I want to print my file and look at it on paper before I transfer it to laser cutting. If you're in America, you probably want to work with letter. If you are international, I go with A4 unless you need something much larger. Now over here on the right, the preset details, we need to make sure we are working in millimeters for precision today. If you are not caring about laser cutting or you're just doing this to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator, it doesn't matter. But for the sake of this tutorial, you might go ahead and use millimeters. Next, as our computer screens are wider than they are taller, I'm going to turn my document to be orientation widescreen instead of landscape. I'm going to make sure I have no bleed on my document. I'm going to leave my color mode to CMYK again because I often like to print. Finally, I'm going to hit create. Now we have a blank document, and with this blank document, the world is our playground. We can make anything. As I said, we're going to make some crayons, and we're going to have several of them built out of shapes. To make this process easier, we want to turn on a variety of things to help guide us. First of them is guides. Go to the view menu, scroll down to about the middle, and turn on smart guides. Smart guides are a collection of lines that will allow objects to snap towards each other based on the object's edges, whether they're intersecting on a corner, in the center of the object, or on a side. These are going to be incredibly useful today. Next, we want to see a grid. So again, go to the view menu, scroll down to where it says show grid or command apostrophe. And if your grid is not the same as mine and it's hard to tell just looking at it, I'm going to show you how to change that. For today's tutorial, we want a 1 centimeter grid with 5 millimeter subdivisions. So we're going to go to the Illustrator menu, go to settings, guides and grids, and we're going to change that to be 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter grid line with a 5 millimeter subdivision, which is simply taking those grid lines and dividing them in half. So 2 is our subdivisions. Now that that is there, we are ready to rock and roll. Let's create our first crayon. We're going to use the rectangle tool or the letter M. Now it's very easy to click and just start dragging and drawing rectangles and doing whatever we want, but don't get carried away. What size is this rectangle? I don't know. Because I have my properties palette open, I can see it's 20.155 by 72.722 millimeters. That's weird. What I really want is a rectangle that's 15 by 60. How do I get that exact? Well, with the rectangle tool, instead of drawing, I just click once and I type it in, 15 by 60, and press OK. Now I want to move this to align with my grid, and I can see that it's hard to get it to fit perfectly in the corner. So to fix that, I'm going to go to my view menu, scroll down to where I had show grid, and below it I'm going to turn on snap to grid. This way my objects are going to bounce directly to the edge of those grid lines. Now there's a keyboard shortcut with this, Command Shift apostrophe. I recommend learning this one, just memorizing it, because you can use it quite often. Having the snap to grid on can be really helpful. It can be really annoying when you don't want it. Now I'm going to make 2 more rectangles. This time I'm just going to drag and I'm going to draw on top, and you can make these whatever size you want today, doesn't matter to me, but if you want to be precise you can use that grid or you can click and drag. I made them 15 wide by 10. Next, I want to have a smaller rectangle, and this is where the snap to grid becomes a problem. I want to get something that's in the middle of these, and I can't do that with snap on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my snap back off, and I'm going to draw a smaller rectangle that sits on top of them, just like this. Now, this is going to be the point of my crayon, and what I want to do is I want to kind of round off or flatten off a corner of this. So to do that, I want to move this corner anchor point right here. Normally, when we are moving an object, we use this move tool, this black arrow on the top left, known as the selection tool. If you use the selection tool, you can pick it up and you can move it. You can also rotate it by grabbing a corner or resizing it. If you click right on the corner, you resize it. If you click outside the corner, you can then rotate it. But you cannot reshape it. To do that, we need the white arrow next to it named the Direct Select tool. This one allows you to click on those individual corners, or called anchor points, and to move those. With that, I can select my anchor point, and I'm just going to pull this one in and maybe pull that one up and move it in a bit to create a corner that looks like it's been used like a crayon. Also, I want to round these corners on the top edge of my crayon. To do that, I'm still going to use my Direct Select. I'm going to click on that top anchor, and inside of it there's a little curved circle here. I'm going to grab that and I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. I'm going to go like 1.6 millimeters. I'm going to do the same to the opposite top corner, 1.6 millimeters. And there we go. This gives my crayon a little bit more realism than if it was just a perfectly hard edge. Next, we're going to add the text on the top of this crayon. When you've looked at a crayon, they usually have a circle with the name of it. To do that, we're going to go back to our rectangle tool, and I'm going to right click on it or long click on it. Just press and hold the mouse, and it gives us a list of options. We want the ellipse tool. Here, I'm going to drag an ellipse anywhere. I'm going to make it long and wide. Then I'm going to use my selection tool here, and I'm going to move it into the center of my crayon. Now, yours might all be slightly off and messed up like this. Let me show you how to fix that easy. With the select tool, we're going to select all the parts of your crayon. We're going to come over to the properties palette. But Joel, I don't have a properties palette, you might say. If you don't have it, go to the window menu, scroll down to properties, and make sure it's checked. Okay? With that checked, find where it says alignment, and then we're going to click this horizontal align button. That's going to push them all to the center. This is wonderful and very helpful to make sure our objects align perfectly. Next, we're going to add some text in there. All right, to do that, we're going to get our type tool. You can also just press the letter T on your keyboard, click and type. I'm going to name this crayon Cyan. It's a beautiful color of blue. I want to rotate it 90 degrees. To do that, I'm going to go back to my selection tool. I'm going to move my mouse to the outside corner and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. If you have your smart guides on, you'll get a guide that's going to say, hey, there you go, 90 degrees, parallel to your crayon. If you don't have it on, then as you're rotating it, hold down the Shift key with one hand, and then you can lock into a 90-degree turn. Finally, I'm going to move it inside my circle, and I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger just by clicking and dragging. Lovely jubbly. Now we want to add some color to make this crayon really pop. So I'm going to select the top. I'm going to hold down the Shift key again on my keyboard. And with that, I'm going to click on the top rectangle and the bottom one. This represents the colors of the crayon. I'm going to double click on the Fill tool, which is this white square over here on the left. And then I'm going to make this color cyan. How do we know where that is? Well, we're going to come over here to CMYK, and I'm going to type in 100% cyan, 0% magenta, 0 yellow, 0 black. That's what CMYK stands for. I'm going to press OK. As far as the crayon goes, well, I want that to be a light kind of tan. So I double click again after selecting it. I click on it, double click my Fill tool, and then I'm going to go find a yellowish tone with a bit of orange, and then I'm going to find a color I like. This looks pretty good. I'm just going to press OK, and now I have a beautiful kind of tan paper. That's great. Now I need to add 2 little stripes here. Most official crayons have 2 little stripes here. Now there is this tool called the line tool, but if you're laser cutting, I encourage you not to use it. It's very easy to use this tool and create problems. Instead, we're going to use what's just called the pen tool. The pen tool will draw lines and curves and any shape you can imagine. It takes a little practice to get used to, but here's how it works. When you have the pen tool, every time you click, you make an anchor. If you click again, you have a line. That's it. Press the escape key on your keyboard to stop drawing, and I don't want that, so I'm going to delete it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the pen tool, I'm going to click on the side, I'm going to go straight across, I'm going to hold the shift key down to make sure it's perfectly horizontal. My smart guide will tell me when I'm intersecting the opposite side. I'm going to click again, and I've created a line. And press the escape key, ESC, escape key, to get rid of that. Now I'm going to switch to my select tool. I'm going to copy and paste it. So I now have two of them. I'm going to select the second one, and I'm going to move it up to the first one. Voila! Isn't that beautiful? Now with all of that, I want to group this together so that when I select one, any piece of it, they will all move together. So to do that, using my select tool, I'm going to select them all with a box. Now I'm going to right click on them and choose group. You can also get there by going to the object menu at the top, pressing group or Command G for group. So Command G. Now I want 4 more of these, one for each of the colors in CMYK. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, and 3. How did I do that? Well, you are welcome to copy and paste, but that takes extra steps to then move them around. What I did is with my select tool, I click on my object, I held down the option key, and I dragged out a copy. This works in almost any app on the Mac, whether you're in Word, Pages, or even in a folder on your desktop. You can duplicate a file that way. All right, now we've got 4 cyan colors, but we don't want that. So I'm going to switch to my type tool. I'm going to click on cyan in the second one. I'm going to change that to yellow. I'm going to change the third one to black, or actually let's go magenta first. Oh my gosh, magenta. I'm not sure how that's spelled actually. Then I'm going to go to black. I better look that one up later. Is it INTA or ENTA? Let me know in the comments. Now we're ready to change the colors. Here's the problem. If we go back to select tool and we click on this crayon and we change the color, you'll notice the whole thing changes. And we don't want that. We only want the tops and the bottoms to change. Fortunately, there's a solution. The direct select. Not only did that direct select let you directly select anchor points, it lets you directly select whole objects in a group. So again, with the direct select, I'm going to grab the top by clicking on it. I'm going to hold down the shift key and add the other 2 pieces I want. I'm going to double click my fill tool, and I'm going to change cyan to yellow. I'm going to repeat this process for each of the others to change those to the next color in my crayon box. And hopefully not mess up. And black. 0, 0, 0, 100. Voila. And there is our crayons. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's quickly build a crayon box to hold these. This is easy. I'm going to start with a rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle that is just a little bit bigger than our entire crayon box. And this one, we could put in an exact measurement, but I'm just going to eyeball it because at this point, we already know how to control our measurements perfectly. But if you are, really picky about stuff, go ahead and change it, make it fit. Now here, my crayon, this is going to be the back of the box. This rectangle hid everything. I can't see my crayons anymore, and I don't like the color. I'm going to change that, but first I want to move it behind my crayons. So to do that, I select it, right click on it, and I choose Arrange, Send to Back. This is going to put it behind my crayons. Wow, I can't see my black. That's a problem with black on black. So I'm going to change it to match the color of my crayon wrappers. So while that shape is still selected, I double click on the fill tool, and I'm going to pick a different shade so that it stands out, but something that reminds me a bit more of the inside of a cardboard box. Kind of a light but slightly muddy orange yellow. There we go. Now I want to build the front of my box. So I'm going to create another one with the rectangle, and this one I'm going to cover a big piece of my crayon, but not the whole thing. And this time it's going to be the outside of my crayon box, so I want this one to be more vibrant. Many crayon boxes are just yellow on the outside, so I'm going to find a yellow I like. That's beautiful. Press OK. Finally, I want to put the title on my crayon box, and I want to do this one in a rounded rectangle. So I go to Rectangles. I'm going to draw yet another rectangle here, and this time I want to center it. Because my smart guides are on, it's actually pretty easy to move it around until I find the center. But if you're struggling with it, here's the trick. Select the rectangle you want it to align with. So now you have two rectangles selected. You're going to go to your Align tools in your Properties palette. You're going to align it to the center and then the middle vertically. That will put it perfectly there. But you notice now it's not perfect with the other one behind it, so you might need to move it. All right, now with that in front, I now want to change the color of where my text box is going to be. I'm going to give it a light gray. Oh, maybe something even lighter. There we go. And I want to give it some fun text. So I'm going to go back to my Type tool. I'm going to click in there. And I'm going to put Designing with Adobe Illustrator CMYK Crayons. Okay, now I want to make this text a bit, give it a bit more flair. We want it to stand out. So I'm going to select all of my text. If you don't have these, then you might want to make sure that you have something called the Control turned on. Go to the Window menu and choose Control. You'll see if it's not there, you just won't have tools. If you turn it on, you'll have a bunch more options. So I'm going to click Character, and I'm going to change the font here. It's got a drop down. Oh, that one looks fun. Then I'm going to change the font size right here. Let's make it just something that's big and works. I'm going to center that, and then I'm going to have to move it now that I've done that. And then finally, I'm going to change the color by selecting all of it, double-clicking my Fill tool, and I'm just going to make it, I don't want to go with white. I'm going to go with cyan and see how that looks. And voila! Not too bad, not too bad. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today's tutorial. Just to recap, today we learned a little bit about working with basic shapes, including the rectangle tool, how to round rectangle corners with the Select tool. We learned about how to create an ellipse tool with the Ellipse tool, or how to create an ellipse rather. We learned about how to input text, how to change the text using the Control window. We learned a little bit about arranging and lining objects up using the Properties palette and using smart grids, guides, and grids. We also learned about grouping objects and how to select objects inside the group using the Direct Select tool. So feel free to play with those tools and see what other fun, creative cartoon concepts and drawings you can come up with. And let me know what you made in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Take care. Bye-bye.